My name is John Meehan. Welcome to the monthly Drone Responders webinar conversation with the FAA. I've got a pretty good lineup here for you. Today we're going to do a few things. We've got some housekeeping to take care of. I'm going to talk about the Part 91 CAWAs and the Part 107 CAWAs, the public safety ones. Just very briefly, we have an award presentation that we're going to give out to a man who's been working behind the scenes to help all of you get your COAs and your CAWAs and your waivers. And then also I'm very pleased to bring on our colleague, Scott Harris, who manages our law enforcement assistant program. And Scott is going to give us a little update on what's going on with the FAA DETER program and the FIFA. So I'm sure many of you will be interested in that. And then we should have some time left to answer any of your questions. So with that, Charles, I will pass it to you.
Welcome, everybody. It's great to be here with our team across the board of Mike O'Shea, Steve Pansky, Scott Harris, Colin Roche, and Derek Hufty. And today, the special honored guest is Will Stoddard. So to give some background, we awarded a number of people team awards for the FAA at the national conference. And so as part of that, Will was one of the team members, and I'm just going to read to that. And then once I'm finished, he can show you the award that he received. But Will, with the FAA and a member of the air traffic operations team, or actually flight standard team, worked with the public safety and in collaboration with the FAA flight standards to change waiver requirements in a way to simplify and expedite public safety BVLOS waivers. These changes made a paradigm shift in approvals from 50 waiver approvals in 6 years to over 1,000 in 6 months. And lately, an average has been 125 new public safety BVLOS waivers per month. The FAA team's collective work resulted in saving lives and exemplifies the highest standards of public safety. And Will is hereby awarded the Drone Responders Team Award. If you would show the award that you received, Will.
You're going to have to hold it up to your face, I think, Will. There we go.
Oh, he's gone. The award engine is gone. It doesn't like the award.
Well, while he's doing that, I would just like to say that I've had the pleasure of working with Will for, I think, almost a year now. And I can tell you all that he's the man behind the curtain that is really making all those waivers happen. And Will has really been, there it is. Will's been working tirelessly and really with a lot of pressure and not a heck of a lot of help. And we really very much appreciate him. There it is. He's showing the award now. And for those of you who are so inclined, Will is a former Army parachute rigger, but he was stationed out in Hawaii, so I don't feel too terrible for him. He had a good career there, but he's an excellent teammate, and I'm personally very honored to have him on my team. So thank you, Will.
Yeah, I'd just like to also mention that Joe Mora, Chris Doherty, Derek Hufty, John Meehan, Bonnie Gagliardo, Kevin Martin, Brian Coney, and John Page were all members of the team award that were received at the national conference. And to the FAA, to all of you that are here from the FAA, thank you all for what you have done in working with us. As I was talking earlier, Steve Pansky was the first person I talked to in the early days when we were just transitioning from Section 333, and he was very helpful then, and everybody has been phenomenally helpful now. So all of you, thanks for what you do to help public safety. John, it's back to you.
I think I want to just give one opportunity to our boss, Derek Hufty. I don't know if Derek, if you would like to say a few words as well. Derek is currently traveling, so it may not be easy for him to do that, but if you can, that'd be great.
Well,
we may have lost him. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get the show on the road. So Charles has always asked me to provide an update on where we are statistic wise. And this is a kind of an interesting statistic. As you mentioned, so far in 2026, we've issued 616 of the Part 91 113 waivers. Last year, since April, we did 801. So our total so far since April of last year is 1,417 of the Part 91 113 COAs, which is we're averaging about 120 a month on that. It did slow down a little bit in June due to holiday schedules, but I think we're back on the normal production schedule there. I did want to talk about what we're seeing, some issues with the Part 107 waiver applications. One of the issues, we're seeing a lot of issues actually with public safety applications. Many of them are very poorly completed. I'll just say it that way. We're getting applications in AVS Hub that don't identify them as a public safety organization. Just remember that if you're applying in AVS Hub, we've got a little checkbox there that I am a public safety organization. Please do check that because that will get you expedited processing. And then when you check that, that's going to be looking for the 200-foot shielded ops checklist. The issue we're having there is people are not attaching that checklist. So it's completely missing. In most of the applications, it's completely missing. That's a big miss. Or when we get it, they're not signed. Or when we get it, they're signed, but it doesn't list who the organization is, or it's partially filled out. If you cannot agree to the pre-analyzed provisions, then essentially what you're telling the FAA is that you don't want the expedited waiver. And you can certainly get a waiver to only 107.31, for example, but you would have to go through answering all of the waiver safety explanation guideline questions for 107.31. So you would not be eligible for the expedited process. The expedited process is really based on, we looked at the hazards, we looked at the mitigations and the risks, and we predetermined that if you do this, this, and this, and this, and equip with this and this and this, then we can get you through that process quickly. So, and for example, out of the 40 recent applications, only 2 of the 40 were able to be processed. So that's not good. So please help us get the word out there. The other thing is we're getting people who are wanting the expedited waivers, and they keep attaching these massive ConOps documents. And I want to come back to look, that letter, that sample letter, there's a paragraph in there that where you're telling us what your ConOp is. That's it. That letter and the checklist is your ConOp. We don't need more documentation if you want the expedited waiver. Now, if you want something different, yes, then you're going to need to attach that big old ConOp and really get into the details. So just wanted to clarify that. All right. Any questions on that, Charles?
Does that throw you into the longer version of the process if you put that long ConOps in?
Yes. If you don't want the expedited waiver, you go into the normal queue. And the normal queue is taking some time. So, but any other questions on that particular subject? Okay. We can always circle back to that. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is introduce my colleague, Scott Harris. Scott is, as I mentioned earlier, Scott is the manager of our Law Enforcement Assistance Program. These are your teammates. For those of you who are at the state, local, tribal, and territorial law enforcement, your LEAP special agent is a great partner for you. They are the liaison between the FAA and you for suspected criminal actions with a drone. But Scott, over to you.
Okay, thank you, John. Just want to make sure you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Good to go.
The first slide there. Two screen sets doing a little weird thing. But thank you. Just going to spend a couple minutes here going through. I think a lot of folks in the law enforcement community have heard about the FAA's new DETER program, what we're doing at FIFA and America 250. If you are in one of the agencies that are supporting those 11 city venues for FIFA, and then obviously the America 250 cities. You may already have heard about DETER, but just give you a quick little rundown. I do have some statistics from FIFA, and we'll just kind of go through it real quick. Okay, so what is DETER? The FAA's Drone Expedited and Target Enforcement Response program allows eligible small UAS operators to pay significantly reduced civil penalty and serve a significantly reduced certificate suspension period in exchange for quickly resolving the matter. So it's a prompt settlement program in FAA enforcement terms. The FAA's LEAP program, at least for the initial rollout of DETER for the FAA, and obviously it was rolled out for FIFA and America 250, or the busy summer, as I call it. The LEAP program is the program that is offering DETER, issuing violation notices. If the person or the subject does not accept the prompt settlement with the violation notice, they can certainly choose that, and then it is the regular or full investigation that is done at the FSDO. So we're issuing violation notices. When I say we, LEAP, if they are a certificate holder, a remote pilot certificate holder, it's a 30-day suspension. If they are not a remote pilot certificate holder, it's a $250 civil penalty. The FAA will use DETER as discretion, typically with high volume events. So for FIFA, the DETER eligible events are matches, the 78 matches here in the United States. I think we only have, well, today's games and everything. There's only like 7 or 8 games left, or matches left for the whole tournament. And so it's the matches, the 78 matches, and the FIFA sanctioned Fan Fest events. There are other ancillary TFRs. The Fan Fest and the matches are DETER eligible. So what does that mean for other violations in the NAS or at a non-DETER designated event? It's the full investigation. They're not eligible for DETER. What we chose for FIFA and America 250 are SEER 2 and a higher events. So SEER 1, SEER 2, and NSSE events. So what has changed? Executive order of last summer, June 6th of 2025, the president signed an executive order basically ensuring full enforcement of the investigation or civil regulations. Safer Sky Act, which was the end of last calendar year. And so also the White House Task Force, strong interest in FIFA and America 250. So here's an example of what the violation notices are that we're issuing. This is a civil penalty, as you can see, $250. Putting in the information, these are the eligible regulations, has instructions, all of those types of things. For a certificate holder that has a certificate suspension of the remote pilot certificate, slightly different, same format, slightly different. Obviously, you can see 30-day suspension, and then there's instructions how to do that as well. For law enforcement, for what we're seeing and working with our law enforcement partners in those cities, those task force, those agencies, we will certainly accept their law enforcement or police report about an incident when they're making contact with an operator out at these events. We also created a streamlined questionnaire that they can send us. We will also hold investigations in abeyance. That is nothing new. Working with law enforcement, not just DETER related or anywhere else in the NAS. If the law enforcement with their criminal investigation wants the FAA to hold our regulatory investigation in abeyance, same rules apply, so to speak, for a DETER as any other partnering or investigation with law enforcement. Submit an abeyance request in writing. We've had several cities do that, and that is no different for DETER. So got a couple stats on my screen here, my other screen. I'm not necessarily authorized to send those out or share them publicly. But the LEAP program, we have 11, obviously, World Cup cities. We have LEAP agent POCs that these cities are in their AOR, their POCs, point of contact for the event, working with law enforcement, supporting every match in person, supporting as many fan fests. Now, of the 11 cities, only 9 venues/cities for World Cup had an official FIFA sanctioned fan fest, but these fan fests were going every day for pretty much the better part of the entire tournament. So there's just a lot of TFRs, a lot of effort. From a LEAP perspective, we're supporting the Counter-UAS units at those respective sites, and the GET teams, the ground intercept team, which is an integral part of identifying operators. So we're doing that real time, or the LEAP agent in the area or in that AOR is doing that real time. But at the same time, we're gathering information, preliminary statistics about all the incidents at the events, and then also getting those law enforcement reports or questionnaire from law enforcement to do an enforcement investigation. So a couple of statistics here, looking at my dashboard to date. And this is updating every hour. We're pulling the information in. Of the 11 cities, FanFest and matches, we've had over 1,200 detections by law enforcement. So obviously, they have 6 U.S.C. 124 and authority. They're running their detection and mitigation equipment. Cumulatively, what has been reported to us from law enforcement, over 1,200 detections. Operator contacts, over 640. We do have some other information about mitigations, but very real interesting information. Some individuals have been arrested, but not that many. Usually they're getting arrested for something other than flying their drone, whatever they have in their car, or when a wants and warrants check is done on them, they do have one. So we have several arrests. We're gathering information about registered UAS operators. Of the 642, we're showing 127 are registered. Remote pilot certificate holders, of those 642, 82. And then foreign operators that, again, this is the information we're getting from law enforcement, the GET teams that are interacting with the operators, 59. And so we do have breakdowns by city as well. Atlanta, Miami, they're the leaders. Miami, a lot down there, a lot of detections and identified operators. Atlanta is very similar. So is Dallas. So I think that's important, just to kind of give you a breakdown there. We're looking at specifically to deter. What did I have for the total contacted? 642. We have identified operators, slightly less than that, in the 640 range. Slight differences, multiple flyers on the same day. We're certainly not going to do 2 investigations or 2 violation notices. We would do the 1. We have that many, 640. We are still waiting on law enforcement reports of the 640, over 300. We do have abeyance letters from some of the cities as they're working through, and then obviously they're incredibly busy out in the field with GET teams, but getting us those reports. To date, we've issued 204 violation notices. And with the violation notice, we're trying to get them out within 3 days of getting the police report. The subject has 10 days to respond to us. So some of these we just sent out, so they're still in their 10-day window. But those are deter statistics of what we have so far. Like I said, for deter eligible events that the FAA has determined, that's the FIFA statistics. In America 250, there were 11. 11 that were SEER 2 and higher. Most of them were around July 4th. Time frame, there are some that with the tall ships that you've seen coming up the East Coast, that tall ship parade. It's in New York. There's a few more days in New York, and then it's off to Boston. So not all of those events are finished yet. The 11 America 250 events that are SEER 2 and higher that we're deploying the DETER program at. But the statistics are similar there, if not less. But New York is there's a lot of detections, a lot of UAS activity, a lot of identified subjects and mitigations and all of that in New York City. But we'll get those final statistics as those events are done. So just kind of wanted to give you a quick little overview of what the DETER program was, what the FAA's LEAP program is doing, and then it's always nice to give a little bit of statistics as well.
Thank you, Scott. A couple of questions that I've gotten, and I would think that the audience is also interested in this, but can you expound on or clarify what's the future of the DETER program? Do you see this continuing? Is this going to be a one and done? Maybe if you can, give a taste of that.
Great question, and that's not necessarily my answer or my question to answer, and I don't think that question has been answered yet. Okay. From the FAA, obviously our legal counsel, they're the FAA's compliance and enforcement program. This is their program. So they're still determining that. We're using FIFA America 250, or the busy summer as I call it, as the test bed. Are they going to use it afterwards? We're not sure. We'll see what the statistic says. Is it going to be worth it? If 5% of folks or 5% of the subjects actually take the prompt settlement route, the expedited, is it worth the FAA offering essentially two compliance programs? First, offering the expedited. If they do not respond or they choose to go to a full investigation, it's going to the FSDO. So we'll see. There's been positive feedback in the program. We've had a lot of folks so far, subjects so far, choose the prompt settlement, pay their $250, register their drone. But I think that's going to be determined. So far, everything that I'm hearing is if the DETER program is something that will be permanently adopted by the FAA, they're at least going to do it for the short term or the first fiscal year or first couple of years at special events, similar to a Super Bowl, Kentucky Derby, F1 race. The Olympics is coming up in LA and those types of things.
No, that's great. That was really what I was driving at. Was the answer is we're not sure yet. We're going to take a look, and it could go. It could continue. It might end depending on what we find out. But the other go ahead.
There's tons of data, and they'll all be analyzed during the after action. And that's one thing. There's only 7 or 8 games left, but there is 60% of the work left.
Right.
Now it is the enforcement piece.
Sure. And one of the things that I think for this particular audience as well, I think it's good to clarify for them. You mentioned that 82 of the 642 actually had a Part 107 certificate. So it's about what 87% do not, which meets what I had thought was happening, right? But this is important for, I think, our audience to understand when they get questions about, well, why is everybody being written up under 107? And if I'll take a stab at the answer, and then if I miss it, please correct me. But the reason why everybody's being written up under Part 107 and not 49 USC 44809 direct flyers is because the limitations of 44809 are very explicit. And if you miss any of those and operating in a TFR immediately is a disqualifier for that. That bounces you back into Title 14. And Part 107 is the civil rule for drones under Title 14. So that's why, and I'm telling the audience here because they may get those questions as well. When most of these people don't have a Part 107 certificate, why are we writing them up under 107? That's because 107 is the applicable rule that governed that flight, because they were not complying with a community-based organization safety guidelines. They were not operating in uncontrolled airspace, or they were in restricted airspace, right? So that's one of the things that is not well understood by the drone community, that if you may think you're a rec flyer, but if you're not complying with all of those limitations, and you can look at the advisory circular 91-57 Charlie or Delta now, if you're not complying with all of those limitations, that flight is actually governed by Title 14, Part 107. So, if you have a friend who's not quite sure about that, please do help them understand that. Did I miss anything on that, Scott?
No. In the 49 USC 44809 is an exception, right?
Yeah.
You're there. If you're a rec flyer, you have that exception to 107. But as soon as you incur or cross that boundary into the restricted airspace, your exception is gone, and you're under 107.
Right. Yeah. So, Charles, do you have any questions for Scott? I think we've gotten a lot of great information from him, and I'm not sure if there's any. I think we do have one. If outside, can a person be cited under, I guess Alex, I think your question is under Part 107. So remember that if you're flying for recreational purposes, by the way, you could do that either under 49 USC 44809 or Part 107. But if you're going to fly under 44809, you must comply with all of those safety guidelines. And one of the ones that we find all the time with the FSDOs, when they ask somebody, what community-based organization safety guidelines are you operating under? And we get the deer in the headlight look, that immediately bounces them into Part 107 because they're not following that. That's one of the limitations to be able to operate under that exception, right? It's a limited exception to Title 14. And nobody is allowed to operate in a hazardous manner. So, if a helicopter in your case has been diverted, that's also bounces them into Title 14 because they cannot interfere with manned aircraft. They must be operating under community-based safety organization safety guidelines, which also has limitations on them. So hopefully that answers that question. Scott, thank you very much for your time. Everybody, I know everybody appreciates your time, especially given that these FIFA games are still going on, and I do very much appreciate you coming on. Charles, you got anything for Scott before we let him go?
No, I thank you for being here to give us that insights, and I know again it'll be a learning lesson after the fact to see, did DETER make a difference, and if people don't take that going forward, then it'll obviously be not continued. So we'll wait to see. But thank you for the update, the information. It clearly shows we still have a drone incursion problem. And even with all of the media coverage and everything that I've seen about do not fly, it just hasn't seemed to be seen or heard. So we've got to figure out how do we do a better job with getting the word out.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. And again, any questions, don't hesitate to push it over to Leap. We'll try and put anyone together with a resource.
Thank you, Scott. I want to come back, Charles and Mike, if I can, to Alex's questions and comments about helicopters. Because it's interestingly enough, I got a email this week from a police department describing an encounter they had with a helicopter, and I think this is good for. Okay, so it was Alex. So Alex, I'm going to tell your story, and so Alex was actually wrote me and said, "Hey, we had this encounter with a low-flying helicopter, and the helicopter pilot was, I think, hot dogging a little bit." And I'm a former Army Aero Scout helicopter pilot, so I think I can relate to this. But and the initial question, and this is a question I do get from public safety all the time, which is, "Hey, if we're out there operating our mission with drones and a helicopter flies by, and if there's a collision, who's at fault?" And the answer is the UAS crew is at fault, the remote pilot, because all of the waivers that we write, all of the regulations require that the drone operator must give way, and it's a safety issue. It's a relative safety issue, right? If a drone gets damaged, okay, so sad the drone got damaged, right? But if it collides with an aircraft, that could be fatal, right? So that's the way. But what's interesting in this particular case is as we were engaged in the dialogue with Alex, it emerged that this particular helicopter pilot actually did a few other things and landed in another town in the middle of the street, blocking traffic to let his passenger out. So there's going to be an investigation, and that helicopter pilot is going to get a phone call from the FAA, and it's probably going to be not good for him.
And he doesn't get the deter option, right?
He does not get the deter option. But and this is the under Part 91, which would have governed his flight. There's this clause, right? 9113, that it's the careless and reckless, right? It's the catch-all. Anytime you do something unsmart with a drone and you endanger the safety of others, I can get you under 107.23 if you're operating under 107, or I can get you under 9113, right? Which is, and I call it, don't be dumb when you operate an aircraft, right? And that applies to both manned pilots and drone pilots. The FAA expectation is that you're going to be a prudent pilot, and you're going to not endanger the safety of others. So that's a great point. I do get that question a lot. Like, do we have to give way to manned aircraft? And now this may change when Part 108 comes out. If that manned aircraft, remember the proposed rule mentioned something about ADSB, but we don't know what the final rule is going to say. So we'll see what that says at the end when it finally emerges there.
So, John, yes, sir. I'm going to take a different turn here. I happen to see that our friend from the FBI, Mike Torphy, was on, and I said, "Hey, Mike, I know this is not an FAA thing, but would you like to talk a little bit about the IFR, the interim final rule on CUAS authorities for SLT?"
I thought you meant I follow roads, IFR. That's what it means to us Army helicopter pilots.
Mike?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. And I try to jump onto these whenever I have a moment. I appreciate you hosting them, Drone Responders. So for how many people do we have online?
We have about 60.
Okay, so good, intimate. Those of you that are tracking the Counter-UAS end here, rewind a little bit to the Safer Skies Act, which was passed into law in December, that provided the intent from Congress for legal relief to be extended to state, local, tribal, territorial law enforcement and correctional agencies for Counter-UAS. And if you attended the conference in Williamsburg this spring, you heard me kind of preview this. Well, we have published the interim final rule, which is the in-between phase or the implementation phase of the law. The law is 6 USC 124N. You can Google that. You will see A2, which is what talks about the local side of it. And now we have published technically 2 CFR, Code of Federal Regulations, which you'll all be familiar with as Part 107, right? So your Part 107 pilots, I forget, was that what the parent statute is there? But we have now, 14 CFR 107. We have published 6 CFR Part 124N and 28, or sorry, not N, 6 CFR Part 124 and 28 CFR Part 124. It's a little confusing because they wanted to be cute and they used 124. So it's 6 USC 124N, which is the law that Congress passed, and the DOJ side of the rule is 28 CFR Part 124, no N. So that is the rule that was published effective July 1. I wrote that rule, and I will forever have years off my life for doing that. But I do think it's good, and I think it's good because I wrote it in with the mindset of what we have gone through as federal operators in this space for almost 8 years. So I wanted to, it's really born through my experience and the experience of my team in a reasonable way that I think that the public will respect. It's not overzealous, but I think it gives the tools to law enforcement that they need to do effective counter-UAS. So you can read the rule. It is open for public comment for 60 days. It is now in the Federal Register. So you can go to Federal Register, or you can go to regulations.gov and you can read the rule. It's so the one in 6 CFR and the one in 28 CFR are exactly the same thing. They're just mirror images of each other. We had to do that because it's joint DOJ DHS, and we have separate parts of the CFR. So it's all in there, and so there's 50 pages that explains how this actually will work, and a lot of that will revolve around 2 portals. Right now, they're kind of crappy. They're just almost like SharePoint portals. So on Leap Justice Connect, some of you may have access to. Any law enforcement officer can get in there. They can log into our new Federal Counter-UAS Coordination portal, or the portal we already had for NCUTC, the National Counter-UAS Training Center. Both of those are relevant here. Just to get started, you need to at least have the detection and warning certification. That is a course that you can take. You can download. It's just a little self-contained HTML file. You can download that from our NCUTC portal on Leap Justice Connect. And I'll put the links in the chat here when I have a chance. You can download that training, and it only takes about 90 minutes. You answer the 20 questions, and if you get a passing score, you email the certificate of completion to my team at the FBI, and then we will get you certified as a detection and warning certified officer. Now you're not done yet. Now that that's one tier of training, detection and warning. The other tier is mitigation, which is the NCUTC resident course that I've talked about. We have 61 graduates. We're running another class in August, another class in September, et cetera, et cetera. So there's 2 tiers: detection and warning and mitigation. Detection and warning is available already right now, free, 90 minutes. And then mitigation is a 2-week. The second step is the agency needs to have a policy guide for actually implementing this. So if you're going to be a detection only agency, then you may ask, well, why do I need a certification and policy to do detection? What we're talking about here is legal relief from the wiretap, pen, trap, trace statutes, which is very significant. You could always do camera radar. Now what you can do is you can go buy a RF intercept system, decode, potentially decrypt that signal if it has to do with a drone. Assume the guy isn't pushing remote ID, or maybe you don't have range of remote ID. Now you're actually getting the command and control signal, and you are being provided that legal relief to do so through the statute. So that's what's special about that. Then you have your agency head has to attest the fact that you have a policy on record. And then you go into the portal, you fill out the op plan for detection or for mitigation, and you are off to the races. You are doing your own independent counter-UAS. As a state or local law enforcement agency, you do not need the FBI's approval. You do not need DHS's approval, but you do need to coordinate. So the training talks about all this. It talks about what the forms you have to fill out. The forms are coming online now. It's a little low tech right now, but we're also building a web portal, like a hosted portal. It'll still be through Leap. You log in through Leap, and then it's its own application. So you'll have real-time coordination, that you've submitted, the fact that you want to work this event. The FBI office knows, DHS knows it's required. And then importantly, if you're going to be emitting either radar, which is not in scope of 124N, but you're going to be emitting a jammer, let's say, you do need to get spectrum coordination, airspace coordination from the FAA as well as FCC. We are streamlining that as much as possible, and it's going to be way easier for these agencies than it ever has been for us on the federal side. I guarantee you that. So very excited about the way ahead here. Truly, every day is we're bringing more things to the portal. Right now, we just posted the model policies last night. So it's probably going to take a few days or a few weeks for those agencies to incorporate those policies into their own departments. And then once they do, they can start operations. So appreciate the chance to talk about that, and happy to take any questions.
You're muted, Charles.
Yeah, like I was saying, Mike, again, thank you all. Thank you for taking the time to give kind of a brief overview of what's happening. It's really important, and there's a lot of good information that you gave that people have been asking me about. I don't know what you can do in the way of sending me an email with the information that you'd like to get out so that we can actually transmit that through our network.
I'm going to send you, just literally an hour ago, DOJ DHS approved the public fact sheet, which is the one page that we can spread far and wide, and at least it's a starting point. I'll send that to you, Charles, and if you would be so kind to host that, that would be awesome. Angie has a great question. about the authorized technology list and the authorized systems list. These are requirements per the law. Those are published and they are available in the portal. The ATL, which is broad technology categories, which is RF detection with interception, RF jamming, and RF takeover, that is public. I'm not going to be necessarily posting those on LinkedIn, but they're not like they're completely unclassified. The ASL, which is the make model of the specific equipment systems from the ATL. So ATL is very general. ASL is very specific. The ASL is considered controlled unclassified information, just because we don't want our adversaries to know specifically what you guys are going to be using out there, which of course is available to law enforcement. Right now that is distributed through the portal. So anyone who has access to the portal can get that. The makes and models, the equipment that we have used at the FBI and that we have trained people on at NCUTC and are very familiar to the interagency are already on there. There's, I think, 17 pieces of equipment from something like, I'll bring it up here. I'll put it in the chat, the exact numbers, but we have a really good starting point from the vendors and equipment that you may know and love. Now, to be clear, radar is not included on this because radar does not require 124N. However, radar still needs FCC and FAA spectrum approval. Cameras, etc., remote ID, none of this is within scope of 124N. Thank you, Angie, for that question.
And the FCC has put out some additional information as well, correct?
Yes, FCC came out last week with a blanket stay, which is a spectrum, temporary spectrum approval, as well as like kind of loosening there's a lot of issues. 124N did not raise a lot of the prohibitions on procuring or advertising or using jamming equipment. So there's a lot of complicated legal issues there. FCC has put out guidance to say, okay, we are waiving all of that to the best of their ability and providing some blanket stays from their perspective as the FCC. That does not solve anything with FAA. And we will help the agencies through that process to get that coordination. But it's a big help. And I think it'll be a huge help on the vendors because they've been operating in a legal gray area for some time. Angie also had the question about model plans. I am definitely open to feedback. So Angie, if you get a hold of those model policies, I'd love to get your feedback on that. And then Alex asks, where was the detect training in LEAP portal? In NCUTC. So you have to go to the National Counter-UAS Training Center portal. If you go to the Federal Coordination portal, there's a button that'll bring you to the NCUTC portal. We run both of them, but we're just keeping them separate because they have separate functions. And then once you're on the NCUTC side of the house, you will see the detection and warning folder in the files section. And then you will download that HTML file. And I know it's weird, but we're trying something new here. You download the HTML file, you just run it on your computer, and it'll run you through everything. I'm sorry Charles, if you want me to keep answering questions here.
Yeah, we've kind of covered all that we were going to do, and we've got till the top of the hour open. So, and I think we have a lot of interest of people that are here. It's very new, it's very interesting, and it applies to probably to most everybody here. Another question that I have is one of the problems that we saw from bringing the law enforcement in with the vendors, and while you have this list, is there any kind of performance information that's available to say which ones work better than others? And I know it all depends on the facilities and that kind of thing.
That's a fantastic question. That is not the at least not right now, and I don't think it will be for some time. That is not the purpose of the ATL ASL. Gosh, if we were to go down that road now, we'd really be probably in a lot of legal issues, but it's just beyond the scope of what our intent here is. The intent of the ATL and ASL is to provide confidence to the almost more so confidence to the USG, the federal side, and to Congress and to the public that the systems that the agencies are using are generally considered to be safe, that they're known knowns. But we're not saying that they're the best thing out there. We're not saying that they're effective in all situations. We make no claim on that regard. But they are operating on frequencies that we're familiar with, that have gone through some level of testing through DHS S&T New Steel. And again, there are things that we're used to. We are definitely open, we as the interagency, because this is DOJ, DHS, DOW, DOT, FAA, FCC, and NTIA. We all jointly run the list per the law. there is a form that I'll be releasing that will be a nomination form. So if you're like NYPD and you want to do you want to add another piece of system, you as an SLTT agency can nominate a system, and then it'll go through the process, which to be frank with you, we're still, working on the process for how to do that. But if we made the bar too high, we would never get anything done. So you as an agency are going to have to do your own due diligence about like what is the best use of your money. Yeah, that's a great point, Angie. NewStale's got some really great guidance, as well as CISA in different areas of the technology side. I see a question as well from critical infrastructure operators, James Smith. So critical infrastructure operators are not covered under Safer Skies Act, therefore they're not covered through the rule, but Congress is definitely thinking about them. And we have to report back to Congress in December with the report of how many times do these state or local agencies actually do critical infrastructure protection, and where are the gaps still? And that means that they're thinking about maybe there'll be a Safer Skies Act version 2, whenever, that will apply to critical infrastructure operators. For now, the path is for critical infrastructure to team up with these SLTT agencies, and have the SLTT certified person do the protection of that critical infrastructure on their behalf. We know that doesn't solve all the problems, but that's what Congress so far has allowed us to do. Mike has a question about FCC changes, radar installations. This does not cover radar. Like I said, the stays are specific, and all the FCC guidance, which is on the portal, the coordination portal, posted them all today. The stays are specific to the things on the ASL, the authorized systems list. We didn't put radars on the ASL because the ASL is radars are outside the scope of 124N entirely, if that makes sense. So yes, you'll still have to work with FCC, FAA, and if they choose to streamline, they will be doing so outside of the 124N process. And we do find that radars are the hardest ones in practice, particularly with the FAA. They most likely to provide adverse interference to the NAS, so they tend to be pretty picky about that. And so we try to get after that in the training to make sure people don't have any bad assumptions about what they're allowed to do and not.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that on the technical engineering side, DHS NewStale has done a lot of testing, and they are willing to, one, answer questions on some of the technology. They also have a procurement guide for Counter-UAS stuff, questions to be asking vendors. They also have a working group that was established originally for the host cities. It's now being expanded to America 250 and to large venues as we go into the next year of activities. And if you're interested in participating on that group, send me an email. My email's in the chat. And Mike, just send me as much as you can to put out, and we'll get it all out for you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Great service, and you're the first group I've really gotten to talk to on a bigger stage. I'll be doing an InfraGuard thing again tomorrow. I think the link for that is on LinkedIn if anyone wants like a full 1-hour panel. And I'm sure I'll be on the roadshow, but it's going to be great. It's going to be a great place here very soon. I'm going to post a few links while people are still here to the portals if you can get on them. And yeah, thanks.
All right, thanks for being here. Thanks for willing to step up on the moment's notice. John, back to you.
Hey, that was awesome. I'm going to post in the chat, but I'm going to need you to kind of forward it to everybody. There's a notice of proposed rulemaking that is out for comment on UAS flight restricted areas. So take a look at that. This community probably needs to look at that notice of proposed rulemaking and comment on it before they extend it to August 6th. But because I saw a question about
Section 2209.
Yeah, that's 2209. Yeah, so I saw that question about the data centers and all that. From the FAA point of view, that may be an area where you want to look at commenting on that.
Well, and there's also the opportunity on the IFR that Mike Torfey's talking about that has a September 4th deadline for comments, I think, if you want to add comments to that rule, to the final rule.
You know, Mike also reminded me that many people are often surprised to learn that different agencies have regulations that are applicable to aircraft. For example, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife has regulations that pertain to the Airborne Hunting Act, for example, using a drone harassing wildlife. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has regulations governing aircraft operation around waterways. So take a look at those if you're interested in that. NOAA has some regarding the marine fisheries and operating, over manatees and fisheries areas. So there are other. It's not just the FAA, and Mike's example shows, right, that there's more than just the FAA involved with aircraft regulations. I've got nothing else.
Anything
else for me?
All right. Well, this was a great session as always. I thank my colleagues from the FAA for being here. Mike O'Shea, thanks for being here.
I do see a question that came
in.
Go ahead. What about someone in public safety who wants to fly in a TFR? So if you have an emergency, and it has to be an emergency, and you want to operate in a TFR, you need to read the NOTAM that applies to that TFR, and you'll also have to apply for an SGI waiver or authorization to get in there. And Steve's going to type up an answer as well. So
unless the FAA gives a blanket, as they did for some of the FIFA activities.
Well, again, that was covered in the NOTAM.
And from the SOSC.
Right? Yeah, so you read the NOTAM, right? And that's always the place to start. And don't assume that all TFR NOTAMs are the same. That is a bad assumption. Right? I got nothing else. I think it was a good session.
I'll just note I dropped the link, John, for the emergency situations webpage, which provides that guidance for what situation constitute an emergency and when you should call SOSC versus going through the online form.
Great, thank you. All right, Charles. I think we're done. Mike O'Shea, you've been uncharacteristically quiet today. You got anything or?
No, just that we're going to soon be releasing the Drone Responders Ambassadors Program information. We're looking for people to be their state ambassador for drone responders. We'll probably talk about that next month in greater detail.
All right. Well, thanks for the cameo appearance by Mike Torpy. He kind of saved it for us, I think.
Yep. So anyway, thanks everybody for being here. This is recorded. It will be in the Drone Responders YouTube channels. And you're welcome to see that, as well as Scott Harris's presentation that he did is in that recording as well. So with that, I thank everybody for being here. We'll see you next month, same time, same bat channel, and lots of things going on. So keep your head on a swivel because there's lots of stuff happening.
Take care.
See you next time.